everyone, welcome to the TSAT TET coaching classes. In the earlier sessions, we have discussed about parts of speech, conjunctions, etc. etc. In today's session, we will be discussing about précis writing. Précis writing is a basic and a very useful skill. It has been variously referred to as abbreviation, subtraction, abstract, summary and condensation, right. The French gave it the name précis, the pruning away of all that is inessential, something we exclude which is not necessary in the given paragraph. That is called précis writing, which is a French word, isn't it? Then now we'll just try to focus some light on its definition. A précis is a brief, original summary of the important ideas given in a long selection. It's aimed to give the general effect created by the original selection, right. We are not going to miss out anything of the original paragraph, but instead we are going to summarize, we are going to condense, shortening the given paragraph. That is called précis writing. Once again, a précis is a brief, original summary of the important ideas given in a long selection. It's aimed to give the general effect created by the original selection. It is a concise and lucid summary that forsakes all unnecessary details. Unnecessary details like illustrations, amplifications and embellishments, which are not required in the original paragraph, but they are there. In précis writing, we are going to remove them so that the paragraph becomes short, which is easier for the reader to read, right. And unnecessary details, it is a concise, lucid summary that forsakes all unnecessary details in favor of reproducing the same logic and the development, organization and the emphasis of the original, right. These are not going to be missed. Logic is not missed. The development of the paragraph, the original development of the paragraph by the author, this is not missed. The organization of the thought, idea is not missed, and the what kind of important points emphasized by the author in original paragraph, these are also not going to be missed, right. And précis writing is a kind of writing retaining the substance of Fuller's statement. It seeks to articulate another author's thought by extracting the maximum amount of information and carefully conveying it in a minimum number of words. In simple, large paragraph, we are going to make it a simple paragraph, a short paragraph, isn't it? So that is called as paragraph. So here we just try to identify the purpose of the précis writing. Précis writing aims at intelligent reading and clear, accurate writing. Accurate writing in the sense, writing without any grammatical flaws, mistakes, errors. And it is intelligent reading. You have to read the original paragraph several times. Then only you will be able to identify what is needed and what is not needed, what is essential, what is inessential, what is to be incorporated and what is to be excluded. So that is the reason why we call it as an intelligent reading. And also after a careful reading, after careful observation, right, and you are going to make it short, and while you are getting it short, condensed, you have to be very clear and you have to be very accurate, isn't it? It is a skill of both analysis and genesis that critically questions every thought included and excluded. Why we are including this? Why we are excluding this? You have to think about it a lot. Just like that, this is important, this is not important, you cannot be judgmental about it. right. So that is the reason why it is called as an intelligent reading, right. It is analysis and both genesis that critically questions every thought included and excluded. Each word is used to express those thoughts and the proportions and the arrangements of those thoughts both in the original and in the précis, right. The amount of the thoughts which are being produced in the original paragraph and the amount of the thoughts which are produced in the précis writing, these two have to be very carefully analyzed. And précis writing it is what it reveals the author's wordiness and looseness or thinness of thought and construction. While the writer writes, he might go on explaining something about in detail, or he might not give very important thought to the very important idea or something like that, something like the précis writing should strengthen our style, our sense of proportion of emphasis, and our sensitivity to word meaning and author's viewpoint, right. The selection of the vocabulary, apt vocabulary, appropriate vocabulary, so that we are not going to miss the author's sensitivity, author's viewpoint, etc. Then how do we go about in terms of making a successful précis writing? Here are some tips for you. Understand the essential facts or dominating idea of the passage. What exactly the passage conveys, right? What are the essential ideas of the passage, right? And in your opening remarks, what exactly the paragraph is all about, you explain that, right? Opening sentence express what the passage tends to show, tends to carry out the meaning. With as few sentences as possible, enlarge on the essential shown in the opening sentence. The moment the reader reads the very first sentence of the paragraph itself, he must come to a conclusion that this paragraph conveys something. He must come to a conclusion that this paragraph is all about this topic. In that way, in such a way, you should be able to construct the very first sentence. Summarize only what the author says. Do not add your own opinions. In précis writing, the common mistake we all do is that we try to put our own ideas. We try to put our own ideas, which must not be done, which is not supposed to be done at all. You should always try to carry the author's viewpoint, not your viewpoint. Okay, this is one thing that you should refer. As far as possible, use your own words. You can make use of your own words, but not the own thoughts. Okay. Ask whether the précis is clear to one who hasn't seen the original. Once you complete your précis writing, show it to someone else who did not see the original text, so that he will be able to judge about your précis writing, whether it is effective or ineffective, or something to be added or something to be excluded, or something of the same kind. A précis is usually reduced to at least 1/4 or 1/3 of its original length, generally 1/3 of its original length, right? And frequently much more. How long it will be determined by its purpose and by the nature of its original, right? And some of the important points to be remembered about précis writing. An abstract is a condensation of a passage, the important words, phrases and sentences containing the essential thoughts being worked as simply as possible into sentences. This is very, very important. Condensation of a passage, getting it shortened, and the important words, make a note of them, make an important note of important phrases, important sentences and essential thoughts. Précis writing is all about picking out some essential facts, important facts. Exercises in abstracting will involve underscoring the essential facts in a passage and combining them into a single whole, right? So that's how we have to go about in terms of précis writing. Then altering it, a paraphrasing that is called as, is a resentment of a difficult passage, stating clearly and fully in language of the simplest sort just what the passage means. Because it clarifies hidden meanings and obscure passages, it is usually longer than the original. Then coming to the précis writing once again, which involves the ability to paraphrase but adds to it concision, all the while being careful to not to lose or distort the original meaning. Exercising in paraphrasing might involve transposing poetry to prose, explaining the meaning of proverbs, etc., etc. And in précis writing, it is necessary to say as much as possible in as few words as possible. A word may substitute for a phrase and a phrase for a clause, something like this. Word may substitute for a phrase and a phrase for a clause. Okay? And the concern is about the connotation of the word. And the proper use of colons and semicolons in punctuations adds much more glory to your précis writing. And generally, one important point that you should be able to remember, a précis should be written in reported or indirect speech. This means précis will be in the third person, in the past tense. Exercises will involve the change of direct speech to indirect speech. A précis title must be cold as matter of fact, not attractive to the imaginative mind. It is a précis of the précis. It is a précis of the précis. I repeat, it is a précis of the précis. Then after completion of your précis writing, ask your précis writing these questions. Are the opening sentences brief and to the point, precisely mentioned or not? Which is best? Which opening sentence tends to show best what the passage expresses? What the passage expresses. Do the sentence following the opening sentence amplify the essential shown in the opening sentence or not? This is very, very important. Do the sentence following the opening sentence amplify the essentials shown in the opening sentence or not? And which précis clarifies the author's best thought? Have any additional thoughts to be added? Something like this. Is the précis clear to one who hasn't seen the original? Okay. And do the sentence following the opening sentence amplify the essentials shown in the opening sentence? Then how do we go about in terms of writing the précis, method of précis writing? It will be it is must for you to remember the object of the précis writing, what the passage tries to convey. A brief and clear summary. That's called what we call précis of what you have first carefully read. No words, phrases, clauses or sentences which are unessential to the thought of the selection are considered. So you must make a note of the sentences, phrases, clauses and words, to be excluded. Every unnecessary word is discarded until all that you have left is the thought, the dominating idea of what you have read. So you have come to a conclusion and you read it twice, thrice and you understood it, then you should go further. Then in your own words, give this thought as briefly as clearly as possible. Give this thought as clearly as possible and as briefly as possible. Your sentences must be carefully constructed. There should not be any grammatical error. There should not be any punctuation error. There should not be any capitalization error. All these things have to be carefully considered. Do not omit any essential articles, any essential prepositions or conjunctions. Okay? If they are very much needed, please retain them as they are. This is the very important step of précis writing. Most of you just read it once and you try to get it condensed. That is not the way. You have to read it twice, in fact thrice. Therefore, it is possible for you to get the gist of that. Then you get an idea, how do I go about in terms of getting it shortened. So, here comes the first step called first reading. Okay. Read every word slowly and carefully until you clearly understand the sense of the passage, meaning of the passage, the gist of the passage, the summary of the passage. Okay. Don't skim through the words or sentences or something like that. Here, this is the very, very important step. First reading is a very essential and important step. Read every word slowly and carefully until you clearly understand the sense of the passage. Look up all the unfamiliar words, phrases and illustrations, identifying the dominating idea, the essential thought of the passage. Ask if the idea were omitted, would the fundamental meaning of the passage be changed? Okay, if I delete this, is the meaning of the passage going to be retained or not? Think in such a way, then come to a conclusion whether the sentence should be included or excluded, incorporated or omitted. And most importantly, determine what emphasis and space to give the thought in each section. Write a heading for each section. Okay, in a précis rating there will be 2-3 paragraphs, and you divide those paragraphs into subsections, what each and every section tries to convey. And if you are able to give a subheading to that, because it helps you to retain the meaning of the entire paragraph while you write briefly or précis writing, in terms of précis writing. Then second reading, after the completion of the first reading, you get an idea what is the paragraph is all about, what are the important things, what are the unimportant things, what are the essential things, what are the inessential things, what are the important phrases, sentences, words, etc., etc. You might come to a conclusion. To get them confirmed, it is must for you to go through the passage once again. This is called second reading, right? Underscore with a pencil the very important facts containing the essential thoughts. Very, very important step. Take a pencil and underline the important sentences, phrases and other things. And this helps you to differentiate in between what is needed and what is not needed, what is essential and what is not essential, right? Generally, we can omit examples, we can exclude examples, we can delete illustrations, we can delete conversations, we can also delete repetitions. So, this is what you are going to do in the second step called second reading, right? And reread your selections. Selections in the sense you have decided this is to be excluded, this is to be included, this is essential, this is not essential, okay? And look at them, reread them and then come to a conclusion to see that they are wise and adequate, they are appropriate, they are needed, okay? And determine if your underscoring expresses the main ideas. Always try to examine whether these underscored ideas are going to reflect the main idea. And then comes here the final reading. This is going to be a rapid reading. Rapidly and intensely reread once again, dwelling upon the important facts selected for your précis writing. So, finally, you have come to a conclusion that this is to be done and this is to be done away, something like this, and go through them very rapidly. This also gives you an idea about it. Then close it and close your original paragraph. Then write a summary of the thoughts as you remember them. Whatever you have remembered, please put them on a paper and try to summarize your ideas, okay? Then compare with the original and correct, asking the following, whether my précis writing is clear, or sentences well constructed, did you see the third person and the past tense, are I mean third person narration and the tense which is used in the précis writing. Are the spellings correct? Did I make use of appropriate punctuation marks, correct punctuation marks, exact punctuation marks in the right places? Are there any grammatical errors, rhetorical errors? Something like this. After reviewing all these things, you should be able to construct a final copy of your précis writing. Read your first copy thoroughly, very carefully. Read your first copy through carefully. Condense wherever you can, substituting single words for phrases and phrases for longer clauses. Use only simple figures of speech. Don't go for some exaggerative kind of figures of speech. Clearly and concisely express the essential points. Be fair to the sentences which are expressed. Even if you don't agree with them, you have some problem with the sentence, but we are not going to put our own ideas. We are going to retain the author's ideas, author's point of view, isn't it? So you have to be very, very critical. So what are the ideas, what are the sentiments, what are the feelings which are expressed in the paragraph? You should respect them, even if you have some problem with them, and then rewrite neatly. So this is how do you go about in terms of précis writing. It's an overall gist. Now I am going to tell you some of the important points. When you write précis writing, the points must be kept in your mind. The précis should be all in your own words. Remember, own words can be used, but not own thoughts. Right? Own words. And it must not be a patch work made up of phrases and sentences quoted from the original, isn't it? As it is, you are not supposed to retain them. You cannot make 3 paragraphs into one paragraph and call it as a précis writing. No. Right? So it should not be a patchwork kind of thing. In your own words, you must be able to condense it without missing the gist, the summary, the point of view of the author. The précis must be connected whole, right? In the sense, in the beginning it should convey something, in the middle it conveys something, in the end it conveys something. No. These are the things which are not supposed to be made with reference to précis writing. It should get connected as a whole. Then it may be divided into sections or paragraphs according to the changes in the subject matter, but these must be joined together in such a way as to read continuously. The moment the reader reads it, he must not feel that he lost the connectivity kind of thing, isn't it? So this is one important point. The précis must be complete and self-contained. That is, it must convey its message fully and clearly without requiring any reference to the original to complete its meaning, isn't it? The moment someone reads your précis writing, it is not that again he has to go to the original and refer to it. No. The moment he reads your précis writing, it is enough. You have carried all the important elements which are conveyed by the original author of it. So in such a way, your writing should be done. Your précis writing should be carried out. And it is only the gist, main purport, the general meaning of the passage which you have to express. There is no room in précis for colloquial expressions, informal expressions, slang words, something like that. Okay, circumlocutions, rhetorical flourishes, all these things should be avoided, must be avoided. All the redundancies of expression must be rigorously, okay, sir. And if faithful reproduction of the main theme is the first essential of a summary, conciseness is the second. Okay, you are not missing the originality and shorten. These two are the important elements of the précis writing. And your précis writing must be simple, direct, grammatical, and with the help of some idiomatic expressions. Okay, and how do you go about in terms of précis writing? It is called as an art of compression, and you are not bound to follow the original order of thought of the passage to be summarized, and if you can express its meaning more clearly and concisely by transposing of any of its part, you can do that, and this is called as the art of compression. Now I have given some of the important phrases and how they can be condensed. Take a few examples here. His courage in battle might without exaggeration be called lion-like, expressing quality of someone who participated in a war. His courage in battle might without exaggeration be called lion-like. This is a sentence. You can get it shortened. Précis writing will be like this of this sentence. He was very brave in battle. He was very brave in battle. The account of the witness gave of the incident moved everyone that heard it to laughter. The account the witness gave of the incident moved everyone that heard to laughter. Right? So this is a sentence. You can simply make it as the witness story was absurd. The witness story was absurd. The witness story was absurd. Then there came to his recollection. This is one phrase. He remembered. This is the short form of it. The clerk who is now in his employ. The clerk who is now in his employ. This can be shortened as his present clerk. They acted in a manner that rendered them liable to prosecution. They acted illegally, very simple. They acted in a manner that rendered them liable to prosecution. This can be made shortened. They acted illegally. Then he got up and made a speech on the spur of the moment. He got up and made a speech on the spur of the moment. He spoke offhand. He spoke offhand. Anil fell into the river, and before Anil fell into the river, and before help could reach him, he sank. Anil was drowned in the river. He was hard up for money and was being pressed by his creditor. He was in financial crisis, or he was in financial difficulties. The way you will be able to get them shortened. I gave you few instances, but you have to read it thrice so that it will be possible for you to go in terms of producing a good précis writing or something like that. Okay, reading, reading, reading. Only the things which can help you to come to a conclusion of the original text in terms of your précis writing. Unless you read it, unless you are very clear about its gist, unless you are very clear about its meaning, unless you are very clear about what is to be incorporated, what is to be deleted, what is to be excluded, right? Unless you make notes, take notes of the original text, it is not possible for you to produce a very good précis writing, isn't it? Right? Read, write, read, write. Always remember, your first writing is not the final writing. First writing conveys something and final writing conveys something. So write, review, edit, again write, again review, again write, again review, again edit, and in terms of going. The moment you get satisfied with the original idea, whether it is carried out in your précis writing or not, till such time you just write it and review it and edit it. In such a way, you will be able to produce very, very effective précis writing. I hope you have enjoyed the précis writing session. I wish you all the best. Thank you very much.